investors have sentiments. Investors have views and confidence about markets. Sorry, I'm using the Philippine Stock Exchange Index as an indicator of this because it's really the barometer. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index is the barometer of the way business people, corporate executives, show their confidence for the economy, show their confidence for the market. It blends their sentiment of pessimism and positivity in numbers, in actual figures, in trades. They put their money where their mouth is with the way they bring forth value. Look at this. I overlaid it with certain events like ECQs, MECQs, and GCQs. So makikita nyo, hindi na siya nagiging objective-driven. People have forgotten the typical fundamental weighting of valuing companies. They have used pag lahat naniniwala na magre-recover na tayo, optimistic na. Nagmamature na ang bull. When does the bull die? On euphoria. Pag lahat excited, yan na, kamatayan na ng bull yan. Okay? So, if you're going to be looking at this, you're gonna see we're actually basing most of our decisions on something that's completely correlated. But it's not the basis for business. So look at mobility. Mobility is already higher than the second quarter. So inching up. What will spur up mobility? It will be the vaccinations. So if you're going to be looking at the market, kitang-kita po yung channel if you just understand technical analysis. You know that the market is pretty strong at the bottom. It's not piercing that lower channel. Laging pagtatamaan siya, biglang umaakyat. And see, many people are so concerned when they see these things. That's the time they react. But when these things happen, they miss out on it. All of these are visible to everyone. It's just that sentiment clouds your view. But I always say this, we make investments over the long term. Why can't we have that same horizon when we make that investment? Foreigners are out. Look at how much they have sold. Our markets are carried by local retail investors. But it's as plain as simple as this. Foreign money will always come when they're about to earn something. Recently, they've been inching in. When they come in as much as they did 2010 to 2012, what was relevant in those years? They were the post-crisis years of 2008, 2009. If you remember, 2008, 2009, bagsak ang market, negative din yan. Pero after that, the years of plenty follow. That's the reason why markets fly. Now, do you take positions when the market actually has turned? That's not the way to do things. You look at what's happening today. 15% up in the first quarter in terms of earnings. 335% on the average up for the second quarter. We're looking at the first half at 84% and the whole year at 31%. With most companies beating or in line with expectations. Very few are actually, a minority is missing out on the targets. Pero ito yung kwento. Look at the index companies that are there. I purposely divided the old and the new because the new index includes companies like ASN, Ayala Energy, Converge. So bumaba yung weighting ng ibang index issues. But look at prior to that index change, sino magdadala ng recovery? It's property. Property. And this is something that analysts in the market are saying. Naunahan pa nila ang sellers. Ba't kaya ganun? Di ba dapat tayo nagdadala niyan? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right? You look at the new, kahit yung old binaba, kasi nga, yung weighting, binago nila. But in the new, in 2022, paano pa uli? Not a matter of lost growth. It's going to be just a delay because of the numbers. But what it says is that property can lead the charge of that recovery. Pero why are we in the doldrums? It's because of this. We're always scared of the infection numbers. 20,000, 18,000, 14,000. Ang dami eh. Pero alam nyo, even AC Health tell us, talagang andyan yung Delta variant. Clear na clear. It's more contagious. Mabilis ang transmission. But it doesn't tell you that it's more fatal or that it's stronger. In fact, science will tell you that the virus will weaken its impact to also save its host. That's the rule of life. If you're the virus, you don't want the host to die. Kasi pag namatay yung host, patay ka din. So parang flu yan. It will be less and less potent so that both the host and the virus will eventually survive. That's the rule of science, right? So what is tantamount to pin down on? It's the vaccinations. And the more vaccinations we're gonna have, the better it's gonna be. Why? Because it will lower hospitalization. Because it will lower fatalities. It will lower the death rate. Because sabi nga ni AC Health, yun na dapat ang binabantayan natin. Ang binabantayan natin dapat hindi na infection. Marami talaga may infect eh. Pero, ang dapat bantayan mo, ilan ang kailangan ma-hospital at ilan ang mamamatay. Yun ang kailangan bantayan mo. Yun ang kailangan i-lower mo. And you can only do that through vaccinations. And see what vaccinations are doing now. We're doing 700,000 vaccinations a day. And by the end of the year, we're going to be having 62% of the population vaccinated. And hear this out. Metro Manila will be at 90%. That's more than herd immunity. So, to answer the poll question earlier, ang tanong doon, ganito din. Ilan ba ang vaccinated nung last quarter of 2020? Halos wala. Ngayon, 90% will be vaccinated in Metro Manila. You think we're gonna have a better Christmas? I'm just looking at the facts, guys. I mean, this is what the numbers show. And even Ayala Health, with what they're saying, let us not cite COVID case counts. Yun ang lagi laman ng headline eh. It only induces fear. What we have to measure are hospital utilization rates and death rates. You're gonna see how it's tapering off. In Metro Manila, bumababa na. Death rate talagang mas mababa pa. Yun nga lang ang problema natin, mukhang yung mga namatay. Medyo tanyag na tao, kaya mas scary because they're all out there in Viber groups, they're all out there in Facebook. But in terms of full numbers, they are a minority. They are a minority. So, let's spin down now for our next poll. Mishi, can we show our next poll now? The next poll is about the sales realities you face. I want you to reflect and look at the sales realities you face here. Read them and check what is relevant to you. Kasi syempre, alam niyo naman sa real estate, it's a huge, big ticket item, so they want to see it. Right? So, ito yung mga reality. But, if you remember all of those statements again, let me tell you this. There also are excuses not to sell. They are realities. I'm not saying they're not real. But since they're real, we also use them as excuses for not to sell well. So tingnan natin why this is real, why they get to be packages. Silang excuse eh. So much so na minsan, you haven't even talked to the person, but because you are looking at these realities at the back of your mind, what happens? You get to negate yourself. You get to lower your level of excitement. You get to lower your level of enthusiasm. And you see, sales is but a transfer of enthusiasm. If you don't have anything to transfer, how can you make that sale? So, what I'm saying is, these are all realities, but keep them in suspended animation. Think to yourself that things can get better, because they really can. And they really are getting better. Let us not wait in sales. Your response becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Alam nyo, the tail end of this, it's always activity. Activity, activity, activity. The Philippine property market has actually turned the tide. This is the figures from Lichu and Associates, Colliers, all the real estate consultants. Demands for both residences and office space is higher this third quarter. And for the whole of the first and second, anyway, property prices are holding within a tight range. The plunge and the ika nga, yung tinatawag nating crash never happened. Last year, we talked about the real estate market crashing. Where's that crash? It didn't happen. Lease and rental rates, trended lower. But they're actually going up a little now because vacancy rates are actually turning lower as well. They're decreasing. And infrastructure development is continuing. So if you're going to be looking at offices, the demand of offices have actually turned around. The big drop was caused by POGOs. But you see, the IT BPM space, yung tinatawag na millennials natin na nasa BPOs, yan yung kumikita ng malaki ngayon and they're growing from last year. They thought the global economy is going to also damage this industry, but it has served as a great pillar. And the number one pillar was OFW remittances, pero hindi dito sa offices yun. Ang impact nun dito sa residential. Look at the way residential real estate loans are now granted. From a drop in quarter 2 of next year, look at the way it has moved up. Tapos bumababa pa yung interest level. Look at OFW remittances. So, the real estate price index is actually held up and held up strongly. So if you're going to be looking for a turn, it's about people haven't been to Iloilo. This is the in place right now. This is like where the groove happens on a daily basis. This is the growth center of Iloilo. And to own a piece of that today, or have someone own a piece of that today, is quite an opportune time. Because when the market flies back, then certainly all of these deals will be off the table. Kasi alam nyo, let's face it, the deals are there because the market is just about to turn. When the market turns, you think the same deals are gonna be around? This is Pacho Madrigal. This is Rojas Boulevard. And to tell you in all honesty, I was told this could have been a different brand in Ayala Land. It's not even supposed to be an AVIDA, but AVIDA fought for it. So AVIDA is going to be the brand for this. But it's Rojas Boulevard. It's one of the primest of locations in the country. You have access to the Bay Area. And it's one of the boulevards that, are storied with history. And lastly, this one is in Mandaluyong. You're going to be looking at access to Ortigas, to BGC, to Makati. All of these reachable within AVIDA Towers Verge. So think about it. These are products that are positioned well now. Let me go through the polls again. Mishi, can we show two polls together? Or one after the other? That's where we're going to be talking about your choice now as to the rating of AVIDA products. Okay? Rating with 1 to 10, where 10 is highest. How do you rate AVIDA's condominium projects in terms of quality and value? Your ability to sell. Because I get to focus on you now. We will have to focus on the individual now. We will have to try and force unlocking of this potential. You have to believe everything I need to succeed, I have in me. You have to believe that. And if I don't have it in me, I can learn it or I can get it. Everything I need is in me. If I don't have it, I will get it, I will learn it. Kasi alam nyo, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not ambition. It's not dreams. It's not goals. Many people have dreams, ambitions, and goals. It's when they get into what is required. That is when the differentiation happens. after setting goals, what is required. If what is required isn't there, unsuccessful people stop. They stop. Successful people look at what is required. If they don't have it, it becomes a to-do list. Hindi ko alam yan, how can I learn it? Wala ako yan, how can I get that? That's a mindset game. That's how you differentiate successful people and unsuccessful people. It is how they push forward. It's not the way they stop. And for many of us, we make successful people extraordinary. Very unfortunately, we think they're extraordinary. Why? Because if they're extraordinary, then it lets you hope so. Kasi regular ka lang eh. Wala kang contacts niya, wala kang kagaya ng kapital niya, you don't have a family that's like what she has, you don't have the friends, you don't have the education. Lahat ng dahilan masasabi mo eh. Kasi siya extraordinary. Ginawa mo siyang extraordinary. But you know what? They're not also extraordinary. They just do things better than you. Do not exalt other people. Try to exalt yourself because when you exalt others, you will have all the excuses. What they have, you don't have. There's so many things that doesn't work for you. So many things work for them. Ito yung mabigat na paniniwala ng Pinoy. Swerte sila eh. Wow! Swerte sila. So hindi ka swerte. Diniscriminate mo na naman ang sarili mo. And you know what? That's even worse. You know why? Because you can't do anything about it. Malas ka eh. So pag inisip mo malas ka, see, this whole thing about luck, this whole thing about destiny, is something you have to throw out the window. You make your destiny. Ang problema ng Pilipino, naniniwala sa kapalaran eh. Nakaguhit na sa kamay mo, yayaman kayo. Di matulog na tayong lahat. Yayaman ka pala eh. You make your destiny. Those are things. See, God knows what will happen. God knows. Impotensya, alam niya. But He gives you the choice. So think about what's going to be different and move ahead. You know, we waste a lot of time on energy in I have to change. I have to do things I wasn't comfortable in doing. We activated that YouTube channel. We now have what? Over 87,000 subscribers. And it's been one of the biggest source of our own webinars. Yung webinars niya pang 10, pang 20 tao lang. Pero nakaka-close eh. Nakaka-close. So are you also doing the same? Before you do 10 or 20, maybe you have to start with 5. But later on, you'll be doing 100. This weekend, I will have an online webinar. This weekend. Sa tingin nyo, ilan ang registrants this weekend? I will be having an audience of 200,000 people this weekend. Bibili ba lahat yun? Of course not. Pero, if I get to hit 5%, think about that number in terms of success. If I get to hit 1%, but you see, the game today in digital, in online, is to cast a wide net. Cast a wide net because we know the rejection rate is higher. And if the rejection rate is higher, then your prospect base has to be bigger. You don't want to improve the batting average. You cannot improve that today. We have a pandemic. Improve the input. Get into new channels, partner programs, niche marketplaces. Success leaves clues. Achievers share their stories. Ang problema sa atin, nagsishare ng story yung mga achiever, hindi kayo nakikinig. You can even copy. There is a way of copying success. Putting in your own story and creating your own afterwards. There is no problem with that. Invest in your growth. Karamihan sa atin, we use so much of free time to entertain ourselves. Will you grow with that? Or will you be better off watching things that will make you grow? Read things that will make you grow. Not just spur up your emotion. Ang binabasa natin, yung mga politika, yung mga entertainment, ups and downs, roller coaster rides of emotions that end up with what? That end up with what? I want you to invest in your product. Because if you're investing in your own product, You increase your level of credibility and confidence. Because you own it. You own it. And I'll tell you, most of the awardees na sinabi ni Bing kanina, I'm sure many of them would have their own AVIDA products. Because as you own it, it's very different when you share it. Surround yourself with things and people who can stretch you, not people who can limit you. Change your friends. Have the courage to change your friends. That will stretch you. I think all of you know, as I'm big in rapper, 40,000 clients. One of my good friends now that I spend a lot of time with is Edward Lee. 40,000 clients, he has 350,000 clients. I have 10 billion in assets, he has over 300 billion in assets managed. Can you imagine that? See, we will have to look at how we manage things. You are going to be the average of the 5 people you spend most time with.